everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I am so excited to begin the new season of this author collaborative, and my first guest is somebody whose book I have really enjoyed reading, and I'm excited to speak to her and ask her how she went about writing the book. Stay connected, and my guest will be joining me in a few seconds. Then we will begin today's episode. Hello, Nilishri. Thank you for joining. So happy to see you, and so happy to begin a new season of the Author Collaborative. My guest will be joining us in a few seconds. Till that time, if anybody has any questions related to my books or anything else, I'll be happy to answer them. Hello, thank you for joining. Nambu, I am not sure what your name is. If you could let me know in the comments. Thank you for joining. We have our guest here. I am just going to add her and begin today's live. Uh, uh, Sonali, there, I think your Instagram app might not be updated. Okay. Here you are.
Okay.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be.
Yes, I am so happy to have you as a guest and have you as the first guest of this season because I think we have been planning this for a while. Like
I know.
it's been over
Yeah,
6 months now.
yeah. Long time since we have been trying to get this together.
Yes. We have a few people joining us. Thank you all for joining. We have an excited episode planned for you all, so stay tuned. Sonali, would you like to tell the audience about yourself before we go ahead with the episode?
This is my debut book. I am a chemistry professor and a mom of two kids. So juggling chemistry and mythology, which is one of my passions. It's been an exciting journey with Vishwakarma, and other than that, I mean, I'm as normal as everyone else.
One more common factor between us is that we are both NRIs.
Yeah.
She lives in the US and I live in the Netherlands. So that was quite surprising for me because when I came to know about the book, I really didn't know that you are also an expat. Yeah, I saw Vishwakarma's tags and posts, and then I also saw that your book launch was in Pune. So I just assumed that you
Well,
stay
I
in
was in
Pune.
Pune. No, I went there for the book launch, and of course, I have family there. So that was the driving force for going there. And Vishwakarma was kind enough to they were able to find a place where I could launch my book. They have like connections, obviously. I mean, they are all over. So
Yeah, I am sure it was a grand success. I don't know much about it, but I am sure it was a grand success, just as the book has been so far. Because based on the reviews that I have been reading, I was so excited to grab the book myself, but it just wasn't happening.
thank you.
Before the audience gets lost, I just want to show them what we are talking about. So this is the book of Sonali that we are talking about right now, and we are going to be discussing it in detail. Uh,
Forward to the love triangle, actually.
Yeah, so the Empress of Indraprasth is the first of five books, if I'm not wrong, five books
Yeah.
in the series. Okay, and what a bang on beginning to the series! I mean, I was so invested in it from the get-go. Really well done. And based on my reading, I do have a few questions for you. But before we do that, let the audience also get a taste of what the book is about. Would you like to read out a few paragraphs for us?
Sure. I'll read out one of the things that was a little bit different that I have done from what I think the media has, or what has been written in the past, or what has been shown in the media about how she decides to marry the five brothers. Okay, so let me just quickly pull up that. So the scene is basically Bhim tells his mom, look what we have got as arms, and he just tells his mom, ki,
Let me just also put out a disclaimer that that is my favorite scene from the entire book.
okay, okay. So yeah, so let me see. Okay. The scene is that Ma Kunti has told her that it might be a good idea You can rest assured that all of my sons are attracted to you, she said bluntly. I gave her a quizzical look. Yes, Draupadi, I am their mother and I know them well. After all of them are extremely attracted to you. And honestly, who can blame them? She asked as she gave me an overt once over. I think that chance utterance that escaped my lips is the biggest blessing in disguise. It might just prove to be the solution we need to survive and thrive as one. Your decision will decide their fate. Yudhishthir is the eldest, he is the crown prince. His wife will be the queen of Hastinapur. Think about it. She concluded with one extremely meaningful look at me as she stepped out of the room back to her sons. My brain reeled as I just sat there, glaring at her retreating back, not at all convinced by what she had said. I just wanted to get up and go back home, but that would never do. This was my home now, for better or for worse. I took a few calming breaths as I waited for Arjun to come to me. Despite myself, I kept going over and over Sahadev's words and Ma Kunti's words. I knew that there was some merit in what she had said about sibling relationships taking a backseat when the future of one's own offspring was involved. Their plight was living proof of that. For the briefest flash of time, I imagined myself answering to some unknown faceless stranger who would be Yudhishthir's wife and the queen of Hastinapur. What if he married a vapid airhead who only cared about clothes and jewelry, like most of the princesses of my age group were taught to do? I would have no input in anything meaningful for the development of the kingdom. And worse still, what if he married someone from a kingdom that was not a staunch ally of Panchal? Would the brothers still stay united, or would there be a rift? Maybe my mother-in-law was right after all, but I was still too distraught to be able to think straight. That's one of the, yeah, I mean, I know. There's like more, but that's just.
Yeah, and I also like the way that, before Ma Kunti says the words that changes her life, there is one particular sentence that she herself also says that, and then she uttered those words that changed the course of my life.
Let me see which one you're talking about.
Right after Bhim has declared that, see Ma, what we got in arms today.
Yeah, okay. What did you call her? Arms? She turned to Arjun. And you didn't think of stopping him? Well then, do as I said, share her equally. You have a pact amongst yourselves to never defy a direct order from me. And then Draupadi basically says, I will not calm down and be insulted like this.
Yeah.
You can just revisit the pact. I want to have nothing to do with it. Who has ever heard of one woman being married to 5 men? I asked irately. Why not though? Why has no one ever heard of one woman being married to 5 men? I mean, a man can have multiple wives, so why can a woman not have multiple husbands? Mused Sahdev, aloud in such a genuine manner that I just looked at him blankly. So I hear so like the gender equality, which they were used to, but might not have been prevalent in those times necessarily.
So, my first question to you is actually particularly related to this scene only. As you mentioned, this was it still is a very new concept. I mean, Draupadi's having 5 husbands is a matter of hot discussion even today, and it's like kind of unacceptable in most social circles. Like people frown upon it even now, like ages after whenever that happened. So that particular scene where you are justifying it, it was a very fresh perspective on it. I don't think I have read it in the original text or any of the retellings of Mahabharata so far. So tell us about how you came about it and what was your thought process behind that scene when you are justifying polyandry.
So one of the reasons was I wanted to give her ownership of her decision. So here's the thing, right? In most of the retellings that we have read, so the original Vyas Mahabharata says that Kunti had this and the Pandavas would always listen to their mom and she would just do, or they would just do what she said. So the original Vyas Mahabharata, there is this, even in her Swayamvar scene, like Karan just fails to win her Swayamvar. And she doesn't like really insult him. Okay, that's the actual original version of the Vyas Mahabharata. But then there have been all these new retellings where she decides that she doesn't want to marry him for being from a low varn. So there has been that side where she has been shown to be a little more independent. But then my thought process was, okay, 24 hours back, she stood up for herself, right? In some version of the epic. So then when they go home, it's just a short span of time. Her personality cannot be diametrically opposite, that suddenly she's going to listen to everything that somebody says. Based on the original version, yes, she nothing happened in during her swamvar, so she was like just accepting. Okay, this is what's going to. I'm going to marry whoever wins my hand, and I'm going to like listen to my mother-in-law. So that's a very staunchly patriarchal narrative, and there have been so many of those retellings. So the one thing I really wanted to do was give a slightly different perspective, and since I have chosen the second aspect of showing like she stands up for herself because she doesn't want to marry Karn. That's her decision कि मुझे इससे शादी नहीं करनी है. तो अगर if somebody tells her कि okay marry all of my sons, that's why I had her questioning Ma Kunti. I mean it was a slip of tongue. So why can we just not let that go? And then that's why I have her asking her mother-in-law, would you want to marry somebody just because their mom told them to? Like, that they are not attracted to you. And the other thing I wanted to show was it wasn't just about her, right? There were 5 other men in that equation. It wasn't just Arjun's decision or her decision or Ma Kunti's decision for that matter. One of those other 4 might not have wanted to marry her. So that has never been brought forward. So to me, it was just always jarring. It's almost as if the others have no opinion, no say in it. And that's why I put forth that Nakul is initially reluctant. Just because she is this whole conventional understanding that we have that a man will always want to marry an extremely beautiful woman just because he's attracted to her. I wanted to step away from that narrative also. Not only just the staunchly patriarchal narrative, but also this assumption that हाँ ये सुंदर लड़की है तो इसको तो सबको शादी करनी ही होगी. And that's why I wanted to show Knuckles like, okay, you may be beautiful and all that, but I would rather make my own decision on my own. And that's why I had Nakul show that like when he tells her like I didn't want to marry you initially, but then they had that conversation. I mean, she has this exclusively long conversation with Krishna debating the merits of equality, polyandry, polygamy, and how she would be able to actually love all of them, whether it was possible, and how she could actually manage a polyandrous household. And that's when Krishna talks to her about Radha and his relationship with how they separated.
That's also very interesting, actually, that, she has that conversation with Krishna. I don't think I have read about that particular conversation also in any of the retellings or the original text. And then we also have Krishna's own equation with his wife and the person he originally loves and who he was not, who he did not get married to, and still their feelings are existent. So that was a very fresh perspective, and it made me look at the characters in a very different light. And one more thing that I found really interesting was that each of the brothers have been given a characteristic. They have been given a space in the entire story, which is not something we have read before. I actually, I was smiling when, the youngest 2 of the Pandavas were given space, because we have never read about them this extensively before.
Yeah. And that was the other thing, which was like, it was almost as if Nakul said they were a tag. When they go, they just don't have any personality. I just wanted to make sure, like, and that's why I expanded this series. Like, I want to give every incident in her life the gravitas that it deserves. But at the same time, I don't want it to be a collection of vignettes of her reaction to everything in her life. Like, this happens, this happens, this happens. And she just goes along with it. Most of us are in some ways in charge of our own life, right? Yes. We do make our own decisions, and you would know that better than anyone else, like Gayatri does, right? So yeah, I mean that was the reason why I wanted to have her story in her words, not only focusing on the Swayamvar incident or marry everybody or the Vastraharan, but there was so much more that happened. Or at least, I mean, this is all like obviously my imagination. Like book 2 is primarily just, I don't know how people are going to receive it because it's so much creative liberty. But I don't know. We'll see.
So that brings me to, you have only pointed me in that direction. So I want to know, when is the second book coming out?
June. This June.
Okay. wonderful. That's great news for our listeners and those of you who have read her book, first book already. The second book is coming out in June, which is just now like what, 1 month away now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have
1.5 months.
yeah. Last thing we're working on is the picture is done. The title, we're just trying to figure out the font. And I remember this thing happened last time also. Like we were able to do the cover in like 3 months, but then it took us almost 4 months just to figure out the font of the title and the
Oh
it,
my God.
it was like I can't believe this is happening. The main thing is done and we can't like figure out
Yeah.
the font for yeah.
Okay. So you have also read my second novel,
Yeah.
which is like the second book in this in my series. So if you have any
I
questions for me.
I actually do, like based on what you just asked me, like what was the driving force behind your story? First of all, that's what I want to know.
Okay, so when I wrote the first book of the series,
Mhm.
I had no intention in mind to, make it into a series. I just wanted my debut novel to be out, and I was trying out something new, and that was the motivating factor behind that book. But when the book came out, I mean, I did not expect it to receive so much love. Uh, I till today I have people, coming and telling me, those who have not yet read the second book, they come back and tell me how much they loved Gayatri and the kind of love that she received as a supporting character. That was the motivating factor, biggest motivating factor for me. That I can just imagine if she becomes the main character, how much love she will receive. If as a supporting character, she has, had such a fandom of sorts. So if she becomes a main character, I'm sure people are going to love her. So that was the first motivating factor. The other thing was that with this series, I am trying to, send out another message also that, it's not necessary. I don't want to give out spoilers, but both the books in the series did not have a cliched happy
I,
ending.
I was going to that was yeah, you're kind of like leading me to my next question. Like what was your biggest message from this book?
Yeah, so that was also another motivating factor, which I wanted to continue as part of the first book and being a part of the series. So that was another motivating factor. So these two, like the kind of love that Gayatri received as a supporting character, and also my message that I wanted to continue going ahead with in the series.
Okay. Okay. So did you have a different let's say like think of a different ending to the plot, or was it always this that was in your mind?
Related to Gayatri's story, I had a few alternatives in mind. But then, the story sort of wrote itself. Once that particular incident happened, the story sort of wrote itself. And, Gayatri's way ahead was very clear to me once that particular incident happened. And that was always clear in my head. Uh, the main incident that changes the course of Gayatri's
Yeah.
life, that was always clear in my head. So the main climax was always clear, but I did have a few alternatives in mind related to what happens with Gayatri. So I also want to understand your thing because we have had a few retellings of Mahabharata and Draupadi stories in the past decade or
Yeah.
so, and keeping in mind the political tension in the country in the current scenario, I would never have the courage to, touch upon a subject which can lead to so much controversy and so much of, varied opinions. So tell us about how you built up the courage to pick up such a topic and what are the challenges you faced and how you overcame them.
I wrote this in 2018, like pre-pandemic. Pandemic gave me a little more time to actually like flush out the story and write the first 4 parts. And the goal was never to publish. Like I was just writing it for myself. So
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, this is interesting.
yeah, it honestly never occurred to me that I'm going to send this out. I wrote because I had read several versions of Draupadi's story, like there's Palace of Illusions and there's Karna's wife, there's Mrityunjay by Shivaji Sawant. In those versions, it was shown that she was attracted to Karn, and it was more of her love story. Like I love Palace of Illusions because it's such a beautifully written love story. And then there are these other versions which show Draupadi as a dharmic wife
Hmm.
dedicated to her husband's. And to me, it was like, so all of these versions show her as being brave and ferocious and in charge, not ferocious necessarily, but feisty and in charge of her own life. So there was this dichotomy, if you will, that if she loved Karn and if she was in charge of her own life, then she would marry him. Right? There was no reason for her not to. If she really loved him, she would have married him. Then she wouldn't have waited for approval from even Krishna, for that matter. Like if she is independent, if you're calling her independent, then it needs to show in her actions. She should marry him. If she was completely docile and coy, then she would do like exactly what others told her, like Makunti said, or she married whoever won her hand. Those two just seemed like total extremes to me, and I just wanted a slightly more balanced and nuanced perspective. And that's why I chose to pick parts from the original Vyas Mahabharat and some parts from the more modern versions of the Mahabharata. And I knew that I wasn't ever going to please anyone. Like, here's the thing, like you can never please everyone.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, what the heck? Because no part of this personality is ever winning Miss Congeniality. Let's get that. Never. Right. So,
I like that.
so I just decided to be true to my own questions about the epic more than my perspective. I was like, I have all these questions about why did this happen and what if this could have happened, and if this is true, then why did she not behave like this? So then I took all my questions and I just wrote literally I wrote the answers to it. I put
Okay.
because I read somewhere that if the book that you want to read has not been written, then
You should wait.
That's quite literally what happened. And then my daughter read it and she was like, well, maybe you should try sending it. I'm like, no, nobody's going to, why would you like go through that? Why would I go through that? But then I thought like, okay, no one's going to read it and there is no harm in sending it out, because what's the worst that can happen, right? It's just going to stay on my laptop. And that's okay, because I would still be back to square one. It wouldn't be like, there was no harm in trying, essentially.
Yeah.
So then I sent it out to a few publishers. Penguin, surprisingly, in 10 minutes, they asked for a full manuscript, literally in 10 minutes. I thought,
oh, wow.
Well, had bounced.
Okay.
Quick, I'm like, okay. And then I sent it out, but then they got back to me in like a week or 10 days saying, no, this is not going to work. And now that I go back to what I had sent them, I think, of course, it wasn't going to work. Like, what was I thinking? Because I gave them back. Like, I can't believe I sent that out to them. And then, like, the good thing about that rejection was it made me go back and look at what I have done. So, you know how they say sometimes, like, the things that you don't get are the most important things that happen to you because they grow. So all these rejections that I got a few, like Rupa rejected it. Penguin said no. I mean, they at least asked for it. Like, so I was like, okay. And then Lead Start, there was there's this other company that was interested. And Anand Neelkantan has published Asura, his first debut novel with them. Lead Start, I was like literally going to sign the contract. Like I was this close with them. But then Vishwakarma came through. And I was like, okay, Vishwakarma just had a better deal. Like it was a traditional. I was looking for a traditional publisher, and I found because I'm an expat, as you said, and I can't really like. Honestly, at that time, I didn't know like self-publishing was an option, and I just felt that I would require so much more. It would require a lot of work on my part to be able to like get this book out if I self-published it.
Yes.
So I was primarily focused on getting a traditional publisher. And I was quite honestly lucky that Vishwakarma came through. And the reason, it was almost like a match made in heaven, because the title is Empress of Indraprasth. And Vishwakarma is the architect who shapes Indraprasth. Right? So for me, it was very symbolic. I'm like, yes, I'm going with it.
Yeah, like it's meant to be. Destined. How nice. I mean, but what a journey.
It is. It's been
What
incredible.
a journey. Wonderful. Okay, before we move on to my favorite part of the episode, which is the rapid fire round, is there any particular part from my book that you would like for me to read out?
Yes. I'm trying to think of, like, without giving away the spoilers. Why don't you read your favorite part? Let's see. Because it's always, for me, it's an interesting concept to delve into the mind of the author.
So I have a few favorites, but I think the initial one is my favorite, where they are meeting for the first time in the Ram Navami Aarti. I think that's my favorite bit because in that moment they both realize that they are both fans of DDLJ.
Yes.
So I'm going to read that part.
I mean, I
Just give me.
love the way you've brought Bollywood into this. I also,
Thank you.
as I was reading it, I just say this, like, for those of you who are listening, it almost feels like I'm reading the plot of a Karan Johar movie.
Oh, no.
Because honestly, like, you can take this book and translate it to screen and it would look just fine. Like, it would just flow like the
That
movie.
means so much to me. Before I read, let's just show them the cover
Yeah.
so they get an idea. So this is the cover of my book, Love and Melodrama, and I'm going to read out a few passages from here. Sonali has read the book and she loved it, and so far the book has been doing really well on Amazon as
It's
well.
been doing
So
good on Amazon, exactly. I was looking at the reviews and people are just loving Gayatri's journey. Actually, can
yeah,
you read one of my favorite parts?
yes. Tell me,
The
which one is yours?
the I'm not sure if it'll give out the her father's scene. Thoda Vishwas till that bit.
That would be a little bit of spoiler
Okay,
because
okay, okay. That would
yeah.
no. So that's why I like to read something that wouldn't be a spoiler, but which you like.
Yeah, so I am going to read out from a chapter where the lead pair is meeting for the first time, like they are interacting with each other for the first time. Okay, so this is from a scene where Gayatri is attending the Ram Navami Aarti at a temple where Varun's family has hosted the whole event. And right after the Aarti has ended, Gayatri is talking to Varun's mother. So this is what happens. Uh, as soon as the Aarti ended, Abhi rushed into the crowd with the prasad dish in his hand. So Abhi is the lead male protagonist's younger brother. जा सिमरन जा जी ले अपनी जिंदगी. Gayatri mumbled to herself and sighed. Here, please take the prasad. She turned and found herself looking into a set of brown, expressive eyes. Eyes that currently seemed amused. Eyes that belonged to a body that had a green kurta on it. When had he walked over? Thanks. Hi, Uma auntie. Here, please take the prasad. Thank you, dear. I was going to rush to you before it went kaput, but you are faster than me. Uma laughed at her own joke, and Gayatri was thankful for her mother's vanity because her blustering had gone unnoticed, and she was sure the butterflies in her stomach were no longer just for her ears. Mr. Brown Eyes smiled at Uma and started to walk away. As if struck by a sudden thought, he turned around and smiled mischievously, leaning towards Gayatri and ensuring Uma's attention was elsewhere. He whispered, बड़े बड़े देशों में ऐसी छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहती है सेनोरिटा. Winking slyly, he pointed toward Abhi and walked away, without waiting for her response and leaving her speechless, not to mention embarrassed. She covered her face and let out a soft whimper, hoping nobody else noticed her busybody act. Come, let's meet the other Agarwals and take our leave. Still reeling from the encounter, Gayatri followed her mother wordlessly as they approached Radha and a few other women. So this is how they first meet, and Gayatri sort of says the dialogue. about a bee as he's rushing towards another girl. So she says that Ja Simran Ja, जी ले अपनी जिंदगी. And Varun is right behind her and he hears the dialogue and he responds by saying, बड़े बड़े देशों में ऐसी छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहती है.
Cute. Like, and I liked all the. I just liked it. I'm trying to like any of the spoilers to potential readers, so
Yeah.
it's.
So this was what our books look like. And before we end the session, I will start the rapid fire round, which is my favorite bit of the entire episode. What we'll do, Sonali, is I will ask you one question, you ask me one question. Okay.
Okay.
My first question to you is Arjun versus the other Pandavas. Why?
Arjun, because I just feel like he was the hero and he's the protagonist of the Mahabharata. Like without him, there is no story. And he was just so conscientious about his work. He was such a thorough professional, honestly. And that is one of the qualities that I admire among people, like just to get the job done. And so Arjun, yeah, always.
Okay.
My question to you, my question to you is like based on your book, okay? Like your favorite movie, favorite Bollywood movie.
Favorite, oh my god, there are so many. So, as a 90s kid, I have to say DDLJ or any of the other movies that were, blockbusters of that time. हम आपके हैं कौन भी ले लो या कोई भी ले लो यार. Rajshri and Yashraj were ruling my heart at the time. But if I had to pick one, I would say Andaz Apna Apna because that hands down, anybody is watching, I will join them without even thinking. Yeah, so
So
Andaz Apna.
another question to you in that vein. So is another book coming up based on Andaz Apna Apna kind of stuff, or you don't know? We don't know. Okay, all right.
You can expect Bollywood references in my books. That is for sure. Yes. So my next question to you is: if you had to reimagine any other character besides Draupadi in the epic Mahabharata, who would you choose and why?
I would choose to reimagine Yudhishthir because there were so many positives that he had, but then a lot of it gets tainted by the one thing that he did, which was a colossal. I mean, I'm not even like, let's not even justify. Let's call things what they are. It was a, not a mistake, but a serious, gross breach of conduct.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I have tried to reimagine him in the rest of the series. So hopefully, we'll all get a glimpse of it. Hopefully.
When you talk about Yudhishthir, I just go back to the first scene where she meets all the five brothers for the first time, and that scene comes to my head when she is describing him as the most handsome man she had ever seen. So I'm like, wow. I had never thought of it like that.
No, that
Maybe.
was Yudhishthir was the dog lover.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
The dog lover, and she likes the fact that even in the first, like when they are going back, he picks up he rescues that dog who's going there because the battle is breaking out behind them, and he makes sure that he takes that dog with him so that it doesn't get caught in the crossfire. And that's
Okay.
like him. But then Nakul is, and this is the part where I stuck to the original Mahabharata, where Nakul is shown as the most handsome of them all. But then this edition is where Yudhishthir saves the dog, and it's to show the cycle of life. The steps of her life begin with walking with the five of them and a dog, and I mean, everybody knows how it's going to end, right? So the beginning of the journey and the end, it's a full
Yeah.
circle. That was
Circle of life. Nice, nice. So interesting. Okay.
so
Your turn.
my question for you. Andaz Apna Apna DDLJ. Okay. Your favorite book by an Indian author.
Okay, so I have grown up on romance a lot. So in this particular book, in books I'm going to go towards a different genre. I would say God of Small Things, and it's a tie between God of Small Things and Midnight's Children.
Okay, I haven't read Midnight's Children, but God of Small Things was. I couldn't finish that book. I mean, it was. I was like, oh my god, I can't. I just cannot. And
It's very, yeah, it's heartbreaking. Yeah.
And like even Kite Runner is like that for me.
Oh my God.
I mean,
But if you ask me, out of two of Khalid Hosseini's, I think out of the two of them, I think my preferred one is Thousand Splendid Suns.
absolutely, hands down. Miriam is just, yeah, I mean, Kite Runner I couldn't read because of what it contains, but Thousand Splendid Suns has my heart.
Yeah,
I mean, those protagonists are just out there.
amazing. Like, oh, I was and reading,
I feel that.
tears flowing down, and but I still want to read like that. Yeah. My next question is, an actor you think would be the perfect Draupadi?
Whew, I would rather not
No.
because no, I just don't like the complex character that she is, and not just because I'm not saying it because I don't think any of the actors could portray her, but I just think it's not fair that all the complexities of Draupadi are put on the shoulders of one person.
Hmm.
Okay, it's like if this version can be animated, like I don't know if you've watched the Jungle Book,
Yeah.
the one where they made there's Priyanka Chopra's voice where she voices.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, CGI graphics is something that is used very widely. It would give a lot of employment to talented people. And this character, just like this, with this face, this expression, the fierceness, and the dignity, if that could be portrayed on screen, I think that would be more helpful.
Hmm.
Having any
Okay.
person be like her.
Actually, you put an idea in my head, and now I want the series to be an animated one because we have seen Mahabharata as children,
Yeah.
and we have seen the serial. So now I want an animated version because if you remember, there was also an animated version of Ramayana, which is still, like very close to my heart, and it remains my favorite.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody asks me, कौन सा वाला रामायण पसंद है, so I always say that animated version because it's so beautifully done.
Yeah. And it basically gives you I think it allows the author's mentality to shine through, because no matter
Yeah.
what, like whether you have any actress, like okay, if you put any actress in the role, it's always their personality which is going to come through, not
Yeah.
not what the book says. And as an author and as a reader, as an avid reader, I feel sometimes that a lot of these movies are not able to bring out the nuances of the book,
Yeah.
especially because of the personalities of the real people who are portraying those roles.
Hmm.
Speaking of
Right.
people portraying roles, I have a question for you. Okay, which person in your life or in any other Bollywood movie does Gayatri resemble the most?
Oh my God. So I have been asked this before also, and I always say that both the female leads, Aisha was also a beloved character. I mean, the kind of love that she has received is like overwhelming for me today also. And Gayatri so far, I mean, I told you she was loved as a supporting character also. So you can imagine how much she is going to be, uh, loved as a main character.
Yeah.
Both of them, they have bits and parts of my personality, but they are also uh, somewhat, a mixture of all the women that I know in my life. It's not just me. I have taken observations of women around me and put them into the personalities of Aisha and Gayatri. So if I had to say who's the Gayatri of my life, I would certainly say me only. But then that would be that would be that would be wrong. That would not be justified because I know that I have taken inspiration from my observations of people around me. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's so interesting. Uh,
Okay, I have a similar question for you. Who's the Krishna in your life?
oof. Krishna. I've
Oh,
always been like my grandmother had. I have this 100-year-old photo of Krishna that I got from my grandmother, and I've always worshipped that since I was like 15. So I it's spiritual for me. Like I don't think Krishna can be replaced by anybody, any living person, for me at least. if somebody has it like that, that's great. I mean, I have a lot of good friends. I won't say that. I can talk to people. I can obviously have great conversations with girls and guys. But Krishna himself is irreplaceable. So Krishna in my life is the actual Krishna in the
Oh,
Mahabharata.
nice. I'm also a Krishna Bhakt, so I can understand. Yes, your last question for me.
Yes, your favorite food. And I'm asking this. Let me give you the reason why I'm asking this. I mean, there's Swati snacks. There's all these wonderful places to take. Right? I'm looking at all these places and I'm like, the problem was I was reading one of those parts when I was really hungry. And I'm like reading all these wonderful things that these people are eating. I'm like, okay, I have to go cook.
You have to go and read Love Triangle because more than love and melodrama, the food references there are much more.
Okay.
Because Aisha is a newcomer to the city, I have tried to, show the city from her through her eyes, and she's, discovering new food items and falling in love with the city. So yeah, if one, see, I'm a Mumbai girl. मुझे बोलोगी तो मैं बोलूंगी पाव भाजी वड़ा पाव ही बोलूंगी मैं. But then I am also a good Jew, so I also like Swati Snacks ka food. I love their panki, I love their hando. So yeah, both.
Awesome. Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I've been to Swati Snacks. Come to think of it, despite living it all my life, absolutely. That's going to be on my list of to do things.
They have very good, authentic Gujarati and Maharashtrian food.
And
You must.
is my favorite, like absolute hands-down favorite. So I have to go now. So thank you for Dekho, because of Gayatri, and now I know this new place. I recently there was a reference that Madhuri Dixit had taken.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were having vada pav there. So I was like, wow, this is like divine intervention. How?
How that worked out, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, so you must try Swati Snacks and also candies. Candies, if you have not been to the cafe, it's a really quaint, nice cafe, Portuguese style. Yeah, that's also a good place to go to. So Sonali, this has been wonderful. I am so happy that after 6-7 months of doing to and fro, we have finally done this.
Just a quick, I just have a quick. Does anybody from the audience have any question for either of us?
Yes. Any questions for us? Sonali's book is The Empress of Indraprasth. It's a retelling of the Mahabharata, and it is told from Draupadi's perspective. We have 5 series in the book. I have read the first one. The second one is coming out in June. If you have any questions for Sonali, please ask in the comments. And my book is the second book in the series called Love Trials.
Do we have, when is the third one coming up? When is your third one coming up?
I don't know. I am not making any promises because when Love Triangle came out, I promised 1 year and then it took 2 years.
But it's about, but you're working on it, right? You're already working on part 3?
Not yet. I will start working on it from July.
Okay. Hopefully we'll see it soon. I'm very curious to see what happens next in Gayatri's life.
Yeah, but I can give out one spoiler that it will be related to Sharad and Nalini. They will become the main characters now.
Okay. That's interesting. You have been given, you've given each one space.
Yes.
To grow. That's a very interesting concept. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to know.
And again, of course, we'll meet all the characters that we have seen so far.
So far also. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
So I don't think the audience have any questions for us. Of course, whoever is watching, you can always come back and ask your questions in private also. We don't mind. Yeah. So thank you, Sonali, for joining me. Have a great weekend ahead. And I am so looking forward to the second book in the series. You can expect a raving review of that as well.
Gayatri's journey too, and I'm also looking forward to the third part. So thanks very much for having this, and I'm really glad we could finally make it after all those months of time.
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye, Sonali.
Bye. Take care.